Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jump, and today we're doing my top 5 old Legend of Zelda concepts that could appear in Breath of the Wild 2. Now, a few months ago, we were given a new trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, which I think was really cool and really interesting to watch, because we now have some more information, but it's not a lot, but we still have new things that we can sort of expect to see in Breath of the Wild 2. Like, we now have some floating islands, Link using the green hand, and what possibly looks like some dungeons or something like that. And I would thought that that I would make a video talking about some of the old concepts that could possibly return and play some kind of key aspect within Breath of the Wild 2. So to start things off with, at number 5 is time travel. Now, time travel, this could possibly work, maybe, because within the game we see two different things. Well, that being two different lands, if you know what I mean. One of them being the Sky Islands, and then the other being Hyrule. And the way time travel could work is that Link could find this like underground cavern or something that could house the gates that can take him like back and forth through time. And maybe, let's say, the way that he can only travel through time is if he's wearing the sort of new tunic that we see in the new trailer, or that the hand protects him from it, and then it changes his clothes somewhat. And then whatever Link does in the past, and let's say that's with all the Sky Islands, whatever he does in the past sort of affects something in the present in his own time. And I think that'll be something quite interesting, because then we can see like two different aspects and see how much Hyrule has sort of changed within the time that Link was he in the past or the present. Kind of like how in Ocarina of Time, when you got the Song of Storms as adult Link, and then he went back in time as child Link, and then played the Song of Storms to the Windworld guy, and that'll be something like that, if time travel was brought back. For number 4 is mini bosses. Now, mini bosses I think are a good concept and are just as important as bosses within dungeons, because they basically give Link the item once they're defeated. They can help him basically beat the boss in their particular dungeon. And I think the mini bosses would be a nice concept to be brought back in, and also be sort of updated for the Breath of the Wild gameplay mechanics. Because let's say we have some mini bosses, and then we can basically fight them in a sort of a certain arena that can affect an advantage or disadvantage depending on where Link is. So for example, there could be a mini boss that's in a fiery area, like in Death Mountain or something, and Link has to wear the full Goron armor, or take a fireproof elixir or something like that. Or if Link is fighting a mini boss in, let's say, an ice area that's like an ice dungeon, he might have to wear like the snow gear, or take something that can keep him resistant to the cold for like a few minutes. And I think that'd be sort of somewhat cool, because so we can see like the different ways that we can fight these mini bosses, and see how we can overcome them in the different areas of the game. For number 3 are sages. Now, sages are one of the only reoccurring storyline, if we're excluding like Ganondorf as trying to take over the world, or that sort of thing, because sages have appeared in a lot of Zelda games, whether that's been in Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds, and several other games. But I think this will be somewhat nice, even though it might feel a bit overused at this point, because I think the sages thing is, I think that's a nice concept, but I think it's slowly starting to run its course a bit. I think it's starting to lose steam a bit, and it would be nice to to see this sort of concept be brought into Breath of the Wild 2, because like it could be like some stages, like there could be a Zonai stage, a Zora one, a Goron, Hylian, Gerudo, that sort of thing, and it would be cool to see all of these different stages doing their thing and trying to help Link and Zelda defeat Ganondorf. For number 2 is a wish on the Triforce. Now, this has been used within several games, like in A Link to the Past, Skyward Sword, A Link Between Worlds, The Wind Waker, and I would like to see this being brought back into Breath of the Wild 2. But instead of the good guys having a wish on the Triforce, or like Link wishing for Demise to be defeated, Zelda and Link wishing for Lord to have that Triforce back, I would like to see Ganondorf make a wish on the Triforce. So let's say a few hours into the game, let's say, or something like a quarter or halfway through the game, we see Ganondorf fully re-energized and fully and back into his full humanoid self, and instead of being a wrinkly old corpse. I would like to see Ganondorf finally take his hand on the Triforce and just make a wish, and wish for all of Hyrule to become his, and that'll be something really cool to see on screen, because Ganondorf, he almost wins in the Wind Waker, because he almost touches the Triforce and makes his wish, but he's then interrupted by the king, and then the king wishes for all of Hyrule to be washed away. But I would wish for Ganondorf to probably win like halfway through the game, and then it'll be like Link and Zelda maybe to basically try and defeat Ganondorf in, like, let's say a year or two in game after Ganondorf has made his wish on the Triforce, and that'll be something really cool to see if Ganondorf actually gets his wish and gets the Triforce. And for number 1 is Ganondorf Tennis. Now, Ganondorf Tennis, for people who might be new to the Zelda series, is basically when Ganondorf creates this mystical ball of energy, and it basically throws it towards Link, and basically it's basically just Link hits it, and then Ganondorf hits it back, and it's basically like tennis. And this will be I think they'll be cool to bring this back in as a thing as part of Ganondorf's final boss battle at the end of Breath of the Wild 2, because this particular version of Ganondorf to me looks a bit more magical in terms of he's gonna use he's gonna use more magic stuff rather than just his swords that we have seen in previous games, and I think that he could possibly summon energy balls and just hurl them at Link. Maybe he could throw one at a time, then later he can throw 2 at a time, and this will be a nice concept to be brought back in, because I think it's one of the most iconic things in Ganondorf's boss fight, because it's just basically tennis, and I just like a lot of the ways that in previous games that have been used in Ganondorf Tennis, like in how in Ocarina of Time you can use one of your empty bottles to basically just hit Ganondorf back if you hit it at the right time with your empty bottle. And yeah, and you can also use your sword, the big golden sword, and I think in Skyward Sword, even though it's not technically a tennis-like aspect, you can use the bug net to hit the electricity shockwaves back to Demise, and I think it's a really cool thing that has been used, and I would like to see Ganondorf Tennis be brought back in, and also you just doing stupid things or using stupid items like a bottle or something, or a bug net, to basically just hit back the energy balls back at Ganondorf. So that's been my top 5 old concepts, Legend of Zelda concepts that could be brought back into Breath of the Wild 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and see you in the next video.